Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we got a video by Austin Sweat titled 10 NBA trades that saved players' careers. So as you can see on the screen first, man, I feel like the prime example of that in most recent memory is Demar Derozan, because, you know, like, even when he's on, like, the Toronto Raptors, I felt like he was, like, probably the second best shooting guard, like, in the Eastern Conference, like, in, like, his absolute prime on the Raptors, but still, he was not, like, respected, man. Like, if he was doing that, like, a big market team, I feel like he would have gotten more respect. Went to the Spurs, was still a good player, but was on, like, a rebuilding team. A team that was kind of, like, not really doing too much. Not respected. Goes to the Bulls. I mean, he'd been killing it, but at the same time, man, like, you know, this dude looking like an MVP and everything, right, man? So, we're going to get going on this. Here we go. Let's do it, man.
Every so often, we see players that you know have potential, that you really thought should be a star, but just aren't. Then they get traded, and that all changes.
There we go, there we go,
and
there we go, there we go.
Not playing up to their standards, we're now playing
I did
like
shave,
superstars.
as you noticed.
And it was all
Feels
because they got
kinda
traded
weird.
to a new team, and that saved their career from the path that it was headed. It's happened a countless amount of times throughout NBA history, and today we look at 10 of them. We should first start off with the most current in the game today, which is Demar Derozan,
Yes,
who's
sir.
a perfect example. On the Toronto Raptors, we all knew Demar as a guy that could really go. Himself and Kyle Lowry would often lead the Raptors to one of the best records in the league, and it happened for years. But then in 2018, he got traded to the Spurs for Kawhi Leonard, and that already meant that the Spurs were in a weird spot with losing Kawhi. But we expected that Demar should at least be able to make something of that team because he was still playing alongside LaMarcus Aldridge. But instead, his averages dropped to 20 points a game. Spurs only made the playoffs once in 3
I still
years,
thought he put
and
up
in that 1 year they were out
decent
in the first
numbers, though,
round.
on there.
Besides that, they often
Especially last year.
10th or 11th seeds. But it was weird because Demar was doing nothing with them. Wasn't able to activate playoff mode, but he was only 31 years old. He was going through his prime, but instead he was playing like it was already over. So it didn't make sense why
I just think he was on, like, in, like, a system that just, like, doesn't excel in today's game.
A move that saved his career because it's clear that the Spurs just weren't a good fit for him. Seeing how he's now averaging a career high in 3-point percentage and points, putting up 28 points a game, has been in MVP talks all year, and has led the Bulls to being one of the top teams in the Eastern
Y'all gotta beat them big teams, though. Gotta beat them top teams.
So when it was really starting to look like things were over for him, the move to the Bulls really did save his career. Another current day player whose career was saved by a trade was James Harden. Because back when his career started, we all knew James as the best sixth man in the league. A guy that could start some games when needed and when players were out with injuries, but for the most part, during his 3 years in Oklahoma City, he mostly came off the bench behind Russ and KD. It was a role he was happy in and thrived.
Yeah, it was a Manu Ginobili type of role, to be honest.
Set the team up to never really have a down moment, which was why he won Sixth Man of the Year in 2012. And he did this for his first 3 years in the NBA, until the Thunder chose not to give him the amount of money he wanted, so he got traded to the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, they chose Serge Ibaka,
league MVP and one of the biggest stars in the NBA for the past 10 years. But the thing is, James said that he would have stayed with the Thunder and been happy had they offered him just $5 million more. So had he not have gotten traded, he would have just signed a new contract to spend another 4 years coming off the bench, and who knows how long it would have taken everyone to realize that Harden.
I don't think he would have came off the bench. I think eventually he would have started for that team. I honestly liked him starting, or like coming off the bench early on in his career, because like with Russell and KD, I mean, there was already issues of like, you know, we all know how Russell Westbrook was with like KD. It's like he was kind of more like the alpha dog in the case where like KD was good at kind of like still being efficient and still dominating, but he knew it's like, well, you know, like Russell's gonna do his thing out there. So with James Harden the starting lineup too, it would have been even more of a bigger issue, as opposed to James Harden getting to like come into the game, stuff like that, and still like, you know, maximize like his offensive output from a bench standpoint. The best way I can explain that. Don't know if that makes sense.
Just a really good bench player after that. So this trade saved him from years of being in that role and propelled his career way quicker than it would have had it not gone down. In a similar scenario of a team not giving their player the right opportunity, it brings us to Jermaine O'Neal. Jermaine was one of the few players from the 90s drafted straight out of high school, and he was taken by the
nice on the Pacers.
Well, apparently Portland thought he'd be a longer term investment and didn't see much in him so early on, because in his first 4 years in the league, they played him 10 minutes a game and he only averaged 3 points.
Damn, bro.
And obviously growing frustrated, he demanded a trade and got sent to the Indiana Pacers, where he instantly became a full-time starter and averaged 13 and 10 in his first year.
Yeah, him and Rasheed Wallace were like best friends. Always fun watching them go at it.
For them.
Minus the brawl. It was fun, but not recommended.
The next 6 years and helping the Pacers to multiple playoff runs. His career wasn't headed anywhere in Portland, but because he believed in and bet on himself, the Indiana Pacers gave him a place to really show what he could do.
The Warriors too for a bit, did all right over there.
Kyle Lowry took a bit longer to find his real home in the NBA, but he did end up doing so. He was originally originally drafted into the league 27th overall and expected to be a good point guard, but it didn't happen.
Oh, even Villanova, I didn't know that.
He just wasn't a good fit there. But then it also didn't happen in Houston. He got better and showed improvements over the years, but when you're in year 6 and are just now starting games and slightly breaking double digits in scoring, you start to get classified as a guy that's ceiling is just that. But then Lowry gets traded to the Toronto Raptors and something just clicked. He just happened to pair really well with Demar Derozan and it worked. In year 2 for the team, he jumped to career highs. And
yeah, I mean,
7 and 4.
I've really considered Kyle Lowry as like this era's Chauncey Billups. Like that's how I feel about him. I feel like it took him a while, as it took Chauncey Billups a little while to like find his home in Detroit. Once he did, it's like that's an all-star point guard right there. It's just you gotta find that fit that works for you. And there ain't nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it takes time.
And by years,
that's why you shouldn't give up on your young players.
Become an all-star. Kyle really was looking like he was just gonna have an average NBA career, but getting to the Toronto Raptors saved him and gave him the opportunity he needed to break out. It just goes to show just how much a certain situation can make or break a player. On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have NBA great Kevin Johnson, known for his Phoenix Suns days. But it didn't start out that way because originally he was drafted by the Cleveland
Cavaliers. I don't know much about Kevin Johnson. I hear he's a very underrated player, which
he only averaged
makes sense why I don't know much about him.
But he started to show potential that even the Cavs saw, but they still decided to trade him halfway through his rookie season to the Phoenix Suns, where his averages immediately jumped to 12 and 8 the second half of his rookie year. Then in his sophomore season, his first full one with Phoenix, he put up 20 and 12, and in year 3 about the same.
The man averaged 13 assists.
Became an all-star in year 3, and would later be their starting point guard in all of their deep 90s playoffs and finals runs, sticking with the Suns for the rest of his 13 seasons in the league. I'm not saying he was going to have a bad career had he not been traded, but clearly the Cavs weren't going to watch basketball. And then making that trade saved him by sending him to a team that did know how. Victor Oladipo was in another one of those situations when he was originally drafted by the Orlando Magic 2nd overall. And him being in Orlando was weird. The team made it clear that he was their guy, but they weren't doing much since they were still so bad. So even though personally he was,
I forgot who they I could have swore they had some like another guard on their team at that time too, where it was kind of like I don't remember exactly what the roster was looking like, but
OKC.
Yeah.
But even then, he still wasn't a great fit because he was playing as second option to Russell Westbrook. So the trade that saved his career was him going from OKC to the Indiana Pacers, where in year 1 he led his team to the postseason after they just lost.
Yeah, y'all can toss us bonuses naming that too while we're at it.
And made the All-Star team, and this was huge because the expectations weren't high from him coming into Indiana. The team was expected to start rebuilding, but little did they know they were going to start winning right away. And it really helped Victor too, because after bouncing around like that, he was starting to look like a guy that teams just didn't want for some reason. He was starting to look like maybe he was the problem, and that's why he couldn't stick around anymore.
No, I watched him a lot when he was in college.
More times where he ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I was always built for the NBA
for his career. But with him finding a home on the Pacers and keeping up that same level of success for a few years, showed us that the Magic jumped the gun on trading him, and that Westbrook was probably holding him back a bit. Now Ben Wallace's route in his
Big Ben, yes sir.
Victor Oladipo, but started very different because while Victor went 2nd overall, Ben was undrafted. And
what a day, man! What a day!
Washington Wizards that discovered him, and he spent 3 years there, being about an average center off the bench for the entire 3 years. Then they traded him to the Magic, and he showed pretty good improvements while there, but still came off the bench and by no means had he made a real name for himself. So he was traded to the Pistons after only 1 season. And in his first season in Detroit, they actually allowed him to start, so he jumped up to averaging 13 rebounds a game, which was 2nd in the NBA, and 2.3.
I'm so happy Big Ben worked out in Detroit.
In year 2 for Detroit, he won the Defensive Player of the Year award and made the All-NBA first team. And by then it was made official. Ben Wallace was a defensive superstar, and the Pistons playoff team was really
what you doing?
With him being the new anchor down
low.
And
went
that
back
trade
to
saved his career because Ben would go on to be part of many more deep playoff runs for the Pistons, win 3 more Defensive Player of the Year awards, and of course helped him to an NBA title thanks to him being able to hold his own against Jermaine O'Neal and Shaq that postseason. And it's interesting, he had a legendary career as part of the Pistons, but before he got there, he wasn't a great NBA player, and after he left at only 32 years old, he was still really never the same. So it's another one of those cases where
he never really had like the offensive pieces to have like longevity once the athleticism went away.
He may have been out of the league soon after playing for the Magic, and had that happen, who knows, maybe we just never know Ben Wallace. Isaiah Thomas is another one of those cases. He almost went undrafted too, being the last pick in the 2011 NBA draft. Then spent 4 seasons playing for the Kings and Suns, and he had always shown potential and was a starter too. He even averaged 20 and 6 for the Kings before ending up on the Celtics. So he was known.
Yeah, they also had like a Sound Weiss on that team too.
Not a guy that was ever going to be a game changer.
Not really playing.
That was until the Celtics traded for him, where he became an MVP candidate, putting up a career best 29 points a game for them, putting the NBA on notice and going on a historic playoff run. And he did all that, then got traded.
Has there ever been a player that short that really scored like that?
Kind of faded away after that.
Like for an entire season?
Go from being almost undrafted
he's shorter than Iverson
to a LeBron-led team for Kyrie Irving is still pretty great. Plus, I'm sure had he never gotten the opportunity with the Celtics, he would have.
Robinson was decent, but not like that.
Most teams during his career. Then we fast forward to the present day with Jared Allen, and I don't want to completely say the Cavs saved his his career because he needed a few years to really get going. But I also think it's no coincidence that as soon as he gets traded there in his first full season for them, he's now averaging career highs across the board.
I think he would be doing that on the Nets right now too. They need a guy like Jared Allen, to be honest.
But then he was kind of a letdown and was starting to seem like he was just going to be one of those guys like Miles Turner who could defend really well but was limited on offense. Well, now he's proved everyone wrong and is really leveled up on offense as well as continued to show out on defense. And I think it's no coincidence that it happened as soon as he got to the Cavs.
Yo, I can't tell like my quality's like what's going on with my quality here, man.
A few more years go by and he slowly falls into
my
Miles
bitch ass
Turner
internet
role
today.
and can't find his way out. Then finally we have Kevin Durant. Now his career never needed any saving in the traditional manner that the rest of these guys may have, but I think his reputation did more than anything. On the OKC Thunder, he was a fan favorite, one of the best NBA players in the league, and his game was respected by everyone. Well, as we know, once he joined the Warriors, that all kind of faded away, and the only thing he was ever known for was being a snake and the villain of the NBA. His game stopped getting as much respect because just the idea of him playing on the Warriors put a sour taste in everyone's mouth. Well, then he got traded to the Nets, and ever since then I feel like that's kind of gone away. And sure, everyone still knows he was the guy that ruled the league for all those years, but he started to get more respect again and gone back to just being known as a great basketball player. A lot of it also has to do with
that's true. Okay,
injury and the Nets super team failing.
I low-key thought he was gonna say the Warriors. I thought he said that the Warriors saved his career, which I mean he got some rings out of it, but yeah. But okay, that's actually the end of the video too. So, all right, that's all we got, man. Thank you all so much for watching. Y'all agree or disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. Peace out, my friends.